Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 4. This is a great week. You know why? You guys know why? I love this week because we get to talk about finances, your budget, all of those great aspects that will help you with your business, and it'll help you get the investors that you need because investors want to see numbers. They want to see numbers. They want to know how much money you can potentially make. And you guys already do this. You do this every day. You guys get a paycheck. Am I right? You get your paycheck, you get your revenue, and you have to pay your bills with that paycheck. So you have your revenue, that paycheck, and then you have your costs, your bills, and you are paying your bills with that money that you earned. And now you are going to do the same thing for your business. Am I right, Chef Jonathan?
Of course. This week, guys, just as a heads up, I get to talk most of the time. That does not mean everything is your assignment. I know I usually only talk about the assignments, but this week I get to do a little bit more. So just keep that in mind when I start talking.
Yeah. Yes, Chef Jonathan gets to take the wheel because he loves numbers so much. How many of you had Chef Jonathan for cost control? Remember? Yeah. It's a delight. But before we begin, I want to go over a few things. Mainly, start planning ahead. Every single class is now doing this. The week before your final week is when all your makeup assignments are due. So week 5, come now week 5, May 7th is when every single makeup assignment is due. So if you need to get a makeup assignment done, get that in on week 5. There are no exceptions. Sorry, go ahead, Chef Jonathan.
They are open already, so you're welcome to submit now. They will just close at the end of week 5.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And let me pull that up for you now. So you guys see my screen? Our delightful main page. Remember, you have all of this stuff here. You go to week 5. I even have it right here in that delightful checklist that you guys voted on keeping. And then right down here is your makeup assignments. You can only do 2. Do not put 5 links into one makeup assignment. That will not work. You can only do 1 assignment, so that means you only have 2 assignments that you are able to actually make up. So think of that now, and it's just going to be like any other assignment. You're going to add submission, but you are going to also label what week that is for. Am I right, Chef?
Please, please.
Yes, you need to label to let Chef Jonathan know which one he's actually grading, what week that is. Make it easy for everybody. So remember, you only have 2 shots for your makeup assignment. So makeup assignment 1, and then, wrong one, makeup assignment 2. Does anybody have any questions about that? Any questions?
One quick thing about makeup assignments. Remember, this is only for assignments that you previously got below a 60 on. So if you already got a 70 on something, I can't give you a new grade for it. This is only for failed or totally missed assignments.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chef Jonathan. So, and we also have a discussion due this week. The discussion will be due on Saturday. The first initial post is due on Saturday, and then 2 peer responses due on Tuesday. I will do a video for you guys. I already made it, so it's fantastic. Discussing the discussion. So look for that. And now we get to talk about the awesomeness of budgets. Ooh, before I forget, Chef Jonathan, how is everything looking in week 3?
Looked pretty good. I loved all the staff I saw. Everybody did a really good job staffing both front and back of house. I like how some people use the traditional brigade system titles, but most people used the more commonly used fry cook, saute, grill, which you're probably going to see more frequently in kitchens these days than those more traditional titles. Couple of common stumbling blocks. Number one, concept summary. If I didn't have the details I needed in your concept summary, it's really hard for me to know if you've adequately staffed your concept. So if that was in your feedback, just remember you can resubmit. Just head into that week 3 assignment page, click that submit button again. Another one is weekly salaries are kind of tricky because it may look like a lot of money when you're talking about one lump sum. However, when you multiply that out over the course of the year or divide it down by the hour, it's hard to gauge how much you're really paying somebody. So you want to look into how much positions are going for in your area. Typically, an executive chef isn't going to make $21,000. They're also probably not going to make $150,000. So it's finding what's typical for your area, and you want to be pretty in line with that. And so those weekly salaries are pretty tricky. That's why we ask you to find an annual salary that's common, and then divide that down by 52 to find that weekly salary.
Yeah, do you guys, anybody watch Shark Tank before? Anybody? I remember, I don't watch it very often, but I remember one episode where the guy showed up and he expected to get paid $150,000 a year for his concept. They wanted to get that money, and all the Shark Tank people were like, no, we're not going to give you that much money. That's a ridiculous amount for something that's starting off in your field right now. So think of those things. That's why I showed you the Indeed.com, go on Craigslist, get a good gauge of how much money you should be paying an executive chef. And it's also good to do that research now for when you guys start looking for jobs, looking for what type of job you want to do in your area. It's good to know when you go up there and they say how much money you want to make during your interview, you're going to be able to have a good judgment to go off of. You're not going to overdo it and you're not going to underdo it, right? Because if I said I'm going to be an executive chef and I want $200,000, that's not, no one's going to hire me, not at all. But if I said in my area, I want to make, 60, that's more realistic for some places. But it's also depending on the concept, what you're doing. So that's why it's good to research, see what your competition's doing. And that will help you, seeing what your competition's doing will help you figure out your finances, because you can look towards them. You can see what they do when they're busy, and then that will give you a good gauge to go off of for your own finances, because investors are going to want to see that. They want to see up to 3 years, typically. 3-year cash flow, they want to see what those numbers are going to look like. And by looking at your area, looking at what your competition's doing, you can get a gauge. So for those who are thinking, well, I'm not open, I don't know how to come up with those numbers, you already started coming up with those numbers, right? You guys already did that for your labor for week 3. And now Chef Jonathan is going to show you how to do it for the rest of it. Are you ready?
I am ready. All right. So this week, like we've been suggesting, it's all about budgeting. Figuring out how to make a budget, figuring out how to read whether or not you're in line with your budget. So when I say 30, 30, 30, 10, what am I talking about? What are these? Anybody?
30% expenses, 30% labor, 30% overhead, and 10% profit.
Perfect. Could not have said it better myself. So with that food expenses, that would be that cost of goods sold. So food cost is part of this, but so is beverage cost. If you're selling shirts and hats and that type of retail merchandise, that's part of your cost of goods sold as well. So it's a little bit of a larger subject than just food cost, but that is where that food cost is. Then you have 30% labor cost, which is quite literally, how much are you paying your people? 30% operating costs. This is other costs or miscellaneous costs. A lot of people call it a lot of different things, but it's kind of the catch-all of everything that's not your people or your product. And then finally, you have 10% profit. And with all of these together, that is 100%. So what is that 100%? What is that total pool we're pulling from here?
Your gross,
My gross what?
your gross income.
Yeah. What would be another word for that as a business?
Budget.
Kind of.
Margin.
How about sales? Revenue, right? That's where your money is coming in. Your customers are basically paying for your business. By selling your product, you can then buy more food to sell, you can pay your people, you can pay for those operating costs, and hopefully have a little bit left over at the end. One thing to keep in mind with that 10% profit is that most restaurants are not operating at 10%. Most profitable restaurants are running between 3 and 5% profit. So just something to keep in mind. If you're not hitting that 10%, that's okay. You're in good company. It's just a goal. So first, we got to figure out that sales, that 100%. So in order to do that, it's called sales forecasting. Before you open your concept, this can be a little tricky, and it's going to be kind of an estimate, a best guess. So first, you want to figure out roughly how many covers you're going to do in a day. How many people are you going to feed? So one way to do that, if you're a restaurant, is to take seats and multiply it times 1.5 for each service period. So let's say I have 100 seats in my restaurant, and I'm going to be open for lunch and dinner. So I take 100 and times it by 1.5. That's 150. But I'm doing that twice in a single day. So I've got 300 covers for that day, right? So I'm hoping to feed 300 people. Keep in mind, lunch is usually a little slower than dinner for typical restaurants. It's going to really depend on your concept, when your busy times are, what those services look like. So this really is a ballpark estimate before you open, but it'll get you in the general area. So next, you're going to take those covers and multiply it by your average sale. You remember on your week 1 assignment, we asked you to figure out about what you think your average customer is going to pay for a single visit to your concept. This is where that comes into play, because now you're multiplying the people you're going to feed by how much you're going to charge each one of those people on average. That'll give you, again, that revenue forecast. How much are you going to do in sales for a day? You can then multiply that out by the week, by the month, by the quarter, year, get a general estimate of where that's going to be. Excuse me. Remember, sales and revenue, we're talking about the same thing. So this is, again, before you open, this is what you want to use. Once you are open, use your previous year's numbers. And in order to use your previous year's numbers, you have to have really good notes. When you're going through your business, every day you want to write down how many covers you did, what your average ticket was, what the weather outside was like, if there was an event in town, if there's construction on the street outside. Try and nail down as much detail as you can, because all of those things are going to impact your sales, how many people come through your establishment. So taking really detailed notes is going to really help you to nail this down as you go further in your business, and you'll be able to predict more accurately how much you're going to do in sales. One thing you can do after finding your estimated amount of sales is compare that to this total annual payroll number. Remember, you can figure out what your annual sales should look like by taking that number, $325,791.70 for my concept, and dividing it by my labor cost goal, 30%. I'm hoping I'm going to be doing about 1.1 million in sales for the first year. You compare the two and, go ahead, Chef.
Real quick, show how you did 0.3. Remember this from cost controls. You don't multiply by 3, you do 0.3 for 30%, right?
Yep, so 30%, remember you're gonna move that decimal place 2 places to the left when you're dividing by 30%. So if you're dividing by a percentage, your number should go up.
Sorry, Chef. I wanted to point that out real quick.
No, that was perfect. So, Chef Rachel is going to talk about some other types of concepts and trying to get an idea before you open.
So what do you guys, how many people are doing a food truck? Anybody? How about a catering business? Show of hands.
Yes.
Yes. Personal chef.
Yes.
Bakery. I think there's a few of those, right? How do you guys think you're going to be able to figure out your sales?
Hoping you can help.
Hoping I can help. Still undecided. So you guys looked at your competition, right? Were you able to figure out how busy they were? Look at how much they're doing? What type of stuff you're looking at? You guys have already started doing this stuff, right? You've already, in cost controls, you were looking at the numbers, you were looking to see what you figured out the numbers in order to figure out how much it's supposed to cost you for your food, right? Here, you're able to figure out how much it's going to cost you for your labor. And now, once you figure out, because you guys have checked out your area, you checked out how much it was going to cost, right, to do those for your operations. You know your area well, you know your location well, then you have a good guide as to how much those costs are going to be for your operation in general. Remember, it's kind of like you guys got a salary and now you need to subtract all the little bits. And the key parts where it gets tricky with your catering and with your personal chef and with food trucks is people don't always count every single penny. And you need to count every single penny, including gas, including the time it took to be able to do all of that marketing, all of that area, because then you can really be able to properly forecast what it's going to look like. This is where you guys came up with your mission, you came up with your vision, and now you need to figure out how it's going to look for you, what you want your ultimate goals to be. If you're going to be a personal chef, are you going to hire more people? Are you going to go to multiple different houses? If it's just you, are you going to do one house during like a certain amount of time and then go to another house and then go to another house? If you do, then you can figure out how much you're going to charge people for that stuff. And remember, you guys deal with forecasts all the time because of the weather. There's always weather forecasts. Those weathermen are forecasting and weather women are forecasting what the weather is going to be for the next couple of days, for the year, for all that stuff. You guys are doing the same thing for your food truck and for your catering, your bakery, all of those other places. Yes, Ashley?
I know I need more help understanding the pinpointing the research area, like finding out the competition or finding out those, because I know you gave us that information on going to the census, but when I put things in, it doesn't really pop up to where I'm understanding how to pinpoint those certain areas, such as, like you said, how much that business is making, or how much they're putting out for a personal caterer, or either for a personal chef. I would like to figure out how can I get more of a pinpointed answer for that, so I can know how to base when I'm making a salary for that person, or when I'm making a salary for extra help, such as that. So how do I do that even in homes? If you personal chef going to homes, how do I specify on how to get that done?
So then are there people who do stuff right now in your area that do that?
Not that I know of. I haven't seen anybody doing it. Besides maybe the gyms doing like meal planning. That's about it.
And then I would look at your competition. How much are they charging? I see people saying Google average prices in your area. Yes, I will talk to my competition. I would actually have a conversation with them. So when we say competition, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, West Side versus East Side. You don't have to be like that. You can actually be friends with your competition. And it's a better approach. Am I right, Jeff?
You are. The competition is not the enemy at all.
Yeah. I mean, like for the B&B, I would actually call them up and be like, hey, how are you guys doing? We're really busy this weekend. We're fully booked. Are you guys busy? Are you booked? If you are, great. If not, I'm going to send people your way. Like if they call looking for a place, like, how are you doing? And then they would tell me. They'd just be like, oh yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this is how we're doing. And you can have those type of conversations. And
I guess that's where my comfort zone is at. I don't step out the box to speak to no one. I understand.
Yeah, but this is where you need to get out of your comfort zone because it's your business. You want to be successful.
Sure.
Gabriel, what is your question?
I was just gonna comment on Ashley's comment. You can call catering companies and just act like if you need a catering for a graduation party or for 100 people, or say you have a wedding, and see what they charge, and if there's a private chef in the area, you could also call them and see, hey, how much would it cost to have you cook dinner for a family of 5. Just call them, and like how you said, they're not your enemies. One day you might run out of something like BIBs and call up somebody on the other side of town. Hey, you got a Coca-Cola BIB? I ran out, and I'll get you tomorrow when my delivery comes, and you guys just work hand in hand.
Yeah. And then you can actually find out stuff, especially people for the food truck. If you want to be in a certain area and you see that a food truck's over there, you can be like, hey, how busy are you guys? How are you doing? Is it good? Is it not good? How do you like this area? And you can find out, especially because remember, food trucks move around. So my friend who owns a food truck, she'll be at one brewery on Monday and Tuesdays. And then she'll go to another brewery on Wednesday and Thursdays. And then on the weekends, like, Friday, Saturday, she'll be at another location. So that means that I could be at that other brewery when she's not there on Monday and Tuesdays. I could be there on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I can do the other place on Friday and Saturday. So you can switch it up, and, it doesn't have to be a whole thing. And especially because I have friends who are caterers, and I did catering, and I would tell guests to be like, you know what? I don't do that, but I know who does. My friend Vince, he is fabulous. He will be able to handle that for you, and he'll do a great job. And that will help. Like, you can, and it'll go back and forth. So remember, don't look at it as it's competition, but don't think of it as, you know, like do or die, like you can be friends with your competition. It's one, you know, we're a small, as big as we are, we're a small community. So it's really good to be able to have each other's backs when you need it. Am I right, Chef?
You are. Absolutely. So let's move on to our first block here, which is cost of goods. There we go. Cost of goods. So if 30% of our sales are going to cost of goods, it's pretty important to keep track of this, right? So with that, you want to separate it out into categories. Your food cost is going to be pretty different than your beverage cost, which is really different than your retail cost. So you want to look at these things, and like Chef Tyson was saying way back in 165 rather, you want to separate these out by category. And you want that on your budget separated out. And then you track them separately. How much did you do in sales for food? How much did you do in sales for beverage? With your kitchen, is it going to be totally scratch or all pre-made items? These are extremes, but they're going to have big impacts on your food cost. Remember, this 30% is just a guideline. This one, you're going to want to balance your food cost and your cost of goods sold with your labor cost. If you're buying a bunch of pre-made items, you're probably paying a little more. You might be up by 35% food cost. But you don't need to pay people to grind meat and stuff sausages, right? You're buying sausage already ready to go. All you need to do is pay somebody to cook it up real quick and you're done. Way less labor. So food cost goes up, labor goes down. With a scratch kitchen, you have the opposite. You're not paying somebody else to process that food. You're slicing your own cheese, you're slicing your own vegetables, you're making your own sausage. And because of that, your product cost is going to go down, and you might be down 25, even 20% cost of goods on food, but your labor is going to go up. So the key is to balance these two. So the first step in creating your budget for really all of these costs of goods sold is to create your menu. And this goes beyond just the food. You want to create a menu of everything that you're going to sell. And as you're creating your menu, think about every ingredient that's going in a dish. Make a list. And remember, that's going to include salt, pepper, oil going into the pan, oil going into the deep fryer. Everything you're going to need to execute that dish should be under cost of goods sold. So you get to create this menu, and you're going to create that inventory list as you're going. Then you get to have some fun, and you get to start shopping. This can be really tedious if you're thinking it's going to be tedious, and it can be really fun if you're thinking it's going to be fun. It's a lot about your attitude going into this process, how much fun you're going to have, and there's no reason it can't be fun. You get to go to vendor shows. I love these things. Vendors will have shows in most areas at least once a year where they get all sorts of products out in this big space, and you get to walk around and see all the things that they're offering. So your big broadliners will do this. Your Cisco's and Shamrocks and US Foods. And they'll have chefs cooking this food and having recipes and different ways you can utilize these different products. It can be a ton of fun. And you can get your pricing done in that way. You can talk to the salespeople, give those vendors a call and be like, hey, this is a list of what I need. What is this going to look like if I go with you as my vendor? They want your business. If you're looking at starting a business in that area, they know you're going to be ordering this food at least once a week. If you're going to be a totally scratch kitchen, you're probably ordering multiple times a week because you need the freshest ingredients. They know you're going to be a good customer, and your business can't survive without them once you sign up with them. They want to win your business. So they're going to help you to price this out. So talking to those outliners, talking to whatever vendors are in your area can be incredibly helpful. The internet can be helpful. I would just say be careful with that one, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Like we were talking about with reliability of sources, you want to take everything you find on the internet with a little grain of salt and make sure that it's a reliable source of information. So that's cost of goods sold. So next we're going to talk about labor cost. My recommendation when creating a budget for your labor is start with management. These people are going to be the most expensive. You have to pay them the most because they have the most skill. In addition, they're probably going to be salaried. So once you figure out the pay for them, it's not going anywhere. If they work more hours, if they work less hours, they're going to get paid the exact same amount every week. It doesn't matter. So it's a fixed cost. And then you can start to build your concept around that management. These are also going to be the hardest people to find, because if you have managers who don't buy into your concept, your entire staff is not going to buy into your concept. You need to find managers who are passionate about what you want to do with your business. So these are the hardest people to find because they have to have the skill, they have to have the experience, and they have to have the buy-in of your concept. Then you're kind of going to work down to your lowest paid positions, which are going to be your least skilled positions. And these should be the easiest to find because the most people are qualified to be in that position. Each position in your business should have a budget for how much you want to pay that person. And you guys already did this. It's right here, the hourly and weekly rates that you already put in place last week. You want to make sure to do your research. Check out job postings. Check out what other people are putting out there for hiring new employees. This is a great place to start because you know that if the restaurant catty corner to you is paying their cooks $14 an hour and you're going to pay your cooks $10, guess what's going to happen? As soon as you get them trained and as soon as you've put all your effort into getting them to be these really great employees, they're going to figure out, I can work for them for $4 more an hour. Bye. So in order to hang on to your employees, you want to be competitive. There are considerations here. If your positions require less skill, you probably can get away with paying a little bit less. If they require more skill, you're gonna have to pay them more. So keep that in mind, keep your menu in mind when you're thinking about these labor costs. Remember, as a whole, that 30% needs to balance out with food cost. If you're a scratch kitchen, you're gonna be paying more for your employees because they're gonna be higher skill, and you're gonna need more hours from them because you need more labor to execute that menu. That pre-made, you're going to be dropping a lot of that labor cost, so that labor cost should die as a whole. Next up is operating costs. So, who can tell me what falls into this category?
Things like silverware and cups and napkins and things like that.
Okay,
Utility.
paper goods.
Water bill.
Water bill for sure. I'm sorry,
Rent.
Paul, what did you say?
I said utilities.
Utilities, absolutely.
Your POA system, and maybe even if you're playing music within the radio.
Yes, huge thing. What if you're a sports bar? What do you need that would fall under this category?
TVs.
TVs.
And
Go ahead.
I learned this from a place we used to go to a lot. I know everybody follows DirecTV, things of that, for the major sporting events. And I found out that they charge extra if you're a business and you want to put these big fights on versus what you pay if you're hosting it in your own home, which I was like, whoa, that was just crazy to me.
You said the internet too, so you can wrap that all together, right, Jeff?
Yep, absolutely. As a business, in general, you're going to pay more for cable because they know you're a business and they know many, many, many people are watching that. As opposed to in your home, they expect a couple of people to be watching that cable TV. So business accounts cost more, which is kind of a bummer. You guys are missing. Oh, go ahead.
I had a quick question on that in regards to music. Obviously, you have to provide it. For example, if you are already paying for like Pandora or things of that sort, could you play that through your system? I mean, you're already subscribed to them. You're already paying them. Or no, because it's a business.
I have seen owners play Pandora. I have not dug into the details about how that works, to be perfectly honest. Chef Rachel, do you know?
No, and I was actually going to say, if you're going to have CDs, I worked at one place that had the same 2 CDs to play over and over again. So I can actually not handle the spiritual wilderness style music anymore because that's what they would have going on. So if you're going to do music, yeah, have a good variety and not have the same CD over and over and over again that you have to listen to for years.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced with that with the Pandoran restaurants. You still have to pay BMI no matter what platform you use, because those proceeds they go to the actual artists that we all listen to. So songwriter and stuff like that. There's really no way around it. I mean, you might get away with it for a year, but they will catch up to you.
You know, it's another good one, Chef, is rent. Surprised nobody said rent.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Rent is an enormous operating cost, guys. It is really expensive to rent space for a restaurant or a commercial kitchen.
What about insurance?
Insurance,
Yep.
definitely. Cleaning supplies, utilities, all these things that you guys named. But these operating costs, you want to make a really detailed list. Really think about it. Everything you're paying in your home, chances are your business needs it too, and then some. A lot of realtors will be able to tell you what the typical utility bills look like with a given business that was in that space before you. Excuse me.
And it is true because my husband is a realtor, and I can tell you right now, if you think some real estate is pretty pricey, especially if you look at the assignments, let me tell you that we were looking at a space with a friend of mine, and the average in my area is $7,000 a month. And you are not doing it just for a year, because for commercial restaurants, it's usually typically between 5 and 10-year agreements, contracts. So $7,000 a month for the next 10 years. Think about that. Am I right, Chad?
You are. Yeah, it's really expensive, and longer leases for commercial. It's typically not like renting an apartment where you sign a 1-year lease. You're probably signing a 5-year lease.
5 to 10.
Give or take.
One. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important to make as detailed a list as you can of these operating costs and shop as much as you can before you open, because you are going to be in a lease or a mortgage or a contract with your music or cable or any of these services. A lot of these are fixed prices, and once you sign on that dotted line, you're stuck with them. And there's a big cost to breaking those agreements. Go ahead, Mary Lou.
Also, is this where you would incorporate, per se, if you're looking at a facility and obviously it's not the layout you need? If you're having to come in there and maybe put countertops, things of that sort, is this where you would be putting those additional expenses, or is that a total different?
Totally different. So this is all part of a budget. That's
Okay.
when you're running.
Okay.
Your startup costs are one-time costs that are going to be kind of outside of your typical budget. You're going to need a separate budget for those startup costs. Buying your food truck, for instance. That would be a one-time cost.
Okay, like for chairs, tables, things of that sort.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so your operating costs. A lot of these you're stuck with once you sign up for them. So they're the hardest to have meaningful impact on. So keep that in mind with your assignment. You can't really change your rent.
Remember, that's a fixed cost. That fixed cost, no matter how much money you're making, that cost will always be the same. You're always going to spend $7,000 on rent. It's never going to change. It's fixed.
So that's okay. So finally, we're going to talk about that 10% profit. And this is where Mary Lou's question is going to get answered. Because number one, do keep in mind this is an ideal. But number two, do you get to pocket that 10%? Does that go straight into the owner's pocket? No.
No.
You want to have a safety fund for your business. You want to take some of that money and put it in the bank for a rainy day. I can guarantee you, you are going to need new plates, cups, equipment. You're going to need things like your restaurant floods. You're going to need to pay for that because insurance probably not going to pay the day it floods, but you want to be open the next day. So you're probably going to pay out of pocket and get refunded for it when the insurance gets around to it because you're losing money every day you're closed. So you want to have this kind of rainy day fund, money that can support those types of issues and also helps you to expand your business once you've got that nice safety fund going. Then you can look at things like, I want to produce more and have more efficient equipment. You can set money aside for that out of this 10% profit. So really important to not pocket all your profit. Remember, once again, these percentages are of revenue. 10% of your total sales is hopefully going in your pocket, but more likely 3 to 5. You want to categorize those sales into those same categories as your cost of goods sold. So things like food, beverage, maybe you have alcoholic and non-alcoholic separated out. On this week's assignment, you're going to see that wine, beer, and non-alcoholic are all their own categories. So you want to separate those out and list your sales categorically. Maybe you're running catering out of your restaurant kitchen, and it's kind of this side thing that operates very differently.
Later.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
So yeah. Any questions about that real quick before we get more towards the, go ahead, Don.
It wasn't really a question, more reference to that. I understood that, but I want to go back to your training really quick because you talked about, paying your senior level staff to your subordinate levels in the training that they have. But one thing I don't hear in any of these courses is the sustainability of the sustainment training, new training, that sort of thing. So that's something that even though, yeah, you've had 20 years experience doing this, equipment changes. And so does the product. So now I've got to train you to do that. So I think in my operation, as you noted in in one of your responses, is that, coming in at a certain hour, I actually had a split shift work schedule because I took that center schedule when we're closed, even though they're working full 8 hours, they're getting training time, which I did not annotate that because it wasn't something that we were looking at. But that's something that I think falls short, is that we forget. Yeah, you're going to pay them because they should know their skills, but in order to maintain that skill or get new skill set, we've got to implement that inside the strategic plan, which I haven't seen, so I don't know if you're getting to it. I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder. Sorry, I just wanted to just bring that up because you brought up training, and that was near and dear to my heart, is training.
Well, that's why, Dawn, I always say when you're looking at doing that week 3 assignment, when you're looking at the schedule, don't put yourself in the kitchen full time, because you have to come up with the policies and procedures and make certain everybody's getting trained properly. You have to make certain that the books are done correctly. You have to maintain that customer service. You need to have your eyes on that entire prize. And if you're stuck in the kitchen with your head on that saute station or in the grill, you can't see what everybody else is doing. You can't make certain that everybody is still maintaining that consistency and quality that you want. So that's why when we said, if you're going to be an owner, a manager, and an executive chef, you can't just be in the kitchen all the time. You have to come out and see what's happening around you. It's called that management by walking around. So you are a manager, you're walking around and you're seeing what is actually getting done and what needs to be addressed and what is doing well.
And you're muted.
There you go. I was saying I totally agree with that. That analogy in reference to that. I just wanted to bring it to light to say that, you know, that's something that we just forget sometimes. We just overlook it because, oh, he's got the training, he's good. But you're right. We do have to walk around. We do have to see that and have that there as well. So it was just because you mentioned it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, we do this all the time. But yes.
But it's also good to look at policies and procedures and to look at the whole picture, especially for this week's assignment. Am I right, Chef?
Thank you. Yes. So this week's assignment looks like this. And you'll notice there's a lot of numbers here. There's a lot to take in, but we're going to break it down in a pretty straightforward way. One thing to take note of, there are 3 different businesses. There are 3 different tabs here. This assignment is to do all 3 of them. So make sure you do all 3. So when looking at a P&L, you have your cost, your sales up top. This is money coming in. This is your paycheck. And as you can see, it's broken down into these different categories: food, wine, beer, non-alcoholic beverages. And then you have your total revenue. This is all the sales that are coming into your concept. So what I would recommend when you are looking at a P&L is start at the bottom line. And the bottom line is this net profit and loss. This is a summary of how your business is doing. If it's negative, you're losing money. If it's positive, you're making money. If it's 0, that means you're breaking even. So Janet's Grand Events Catering Company here, they're breaking even. They're selling exactly the same amount as they're paying. So the next one thing to note here is this is not a cost problem. Net profit and loss doesn't actually point to anything. It just gives you an idea of where the business is as a whole.
For a particular time, for a particular time frame.
Yes. So next we have our category totals. I would look at the category totals next. And remember, each one of these businesses is shooting for that 30-30-30-10 model. So if any of these are under 30% of your total revenue, that's good. If they're over 30%, there's a problem there. You've identified one of those cost problems. So in order to calculate that, all you got to do is take, for instance, your total cost of goods sold, 1610, and you divide that by your sales, 5560, your revenue. So this shows that your total cost of goods sold is at 28.96%. We're doing pretty good there. So as a category total, we're all right. So now we do it for labor cost, 2550 divided by total revenue. Cost divided by revenue, 5560. This is saying we're at a 46% labor cost. So is that good or bad? Bad. I see, Don, you've got the thumbs down. There you go. So I'm going to come over to my week 4, and I'm going to say cost problem 1, labor cost. So when you are thinking about solutions, first you've got to figure out what could be driving that labor cost up. There's not a lot of information here, and that's deliberate. We want you to use your creativity and think about what causes businesses to have a high labor cost. And so, excuse me. And so, for instance, you might talk about overtime. So your solution might be check the schedule for overtime, eliminate all overtime hours, because that's time and a half you're paying those employees. That could really rapidly drive that labor cost up. You might talk about cutting hours. You might talk about being overstaffed. There's a ton of answers as long as I'm understanding what it is that you're providing a solution for and you're providing specific recommendations on how to fix that. That's what I'm looking for. So for each of these, you're going to identify 2 cost problems, and you're going to give me 2 solutions to each of those cost problems. So operating costs is actually lower than cost of goods sold. So we already know that's going to be below 30%. So now that you've done the category totals, now you want to dig in deeper and look at specific details. So with these details in cost of goods sold, there is a direct sales to compare those costs to. So you want to divide your food cost by your food sales. So in this case, you're going to take $900, your food cost, and divide it by your food sales, $47.10. Janet's operating at a 19% food cost. She's doing awesome. That's fantastic, right? She's paying very little and getting a lot of money. So next, we move on to wine cost. So we're going to take that $600 in cost and divide it by $200 in sales. Can anybody tell me if this is a problem already? I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. Huge problem, but I do want to show you what happens on the calculator when you do that. You come up with 3, right? Well, this is a percentage, so you still have to move that decimal place over. So if you move that 2 places to the right, you're talking about a 300% cost of goods sold on the wine. It's an enormous problem for this business.
Maybe she's a wino.
Sorry?
Maybe she's a wino.
Maybe.
The owner.
Yep, maybe. That actually is a great point. Maybe the staff is drinking the wine. That's theft. That could be one of your solutions, is talk about how to solve a theft problem. Maybe she's getting short ordered. Maybe she's paying an enormous amount. Maybe she doesn't understand costing all that well. Maybe she's got people over pouring. So do you guys see how there's just an endless amount of answers to why these costs would be that way? We're really only looking for you to think of 2 reasons why that cost problem is there and provide me a specific recommendation on fixing that. Now, with that specific recommendation, I'm looking for more than reduce your labor cost. That's not going to cut it. Cut back hours, I want more than that. Cut back hours by looking at when you're busy and when you're slow, and when you're slow, have fewer staff scheduled. That's a specific recommendation that Chef Janet can actually work off of. Cut back hours, Chef Janet might take a look at her schedule and just randomly start crossing out shifts. That's not going to do anybody any good. So we're looking for very specific recommendations, things that that person can actually take steps to do. And one more thing, just as another reminder, one of the most common things that I see on this assignment is only doing one of these businesses. There are three businesses here, and each one has very different numbers. So Once you've done 2 cost problems and 2 solutions for each of those cost problems for all 3 businesses, you've got one last step, and that's answering this question here. Which one do you think has the most potential to be profitable, and why? And I'll tell you a secret about this. There's no right answer. All 3 of these businesses have the potential to be profitable. But it's all in how you see this business, how you see the fixes, and where you put your priority. That's going to cause one of these to stand out more than the others to you. And I want to see not only that you chose a business, but why you chose that business. That makes sense? Yeah. Alexandria?
Hey Chef, can you give like an example on why the businesses would be most profitable, like on the one that you would choose?
Sure. I mean, I might say that a business has a tremendous amount of revenue. And even though their cost problems are enormous, I like that they have so much revenue. So I'm going to go with that business because they've already got that base sales ready to go. I might talk about these cost problems are easy to fix, right? Maybe that's where your priority is. There's a lot of different answers. It just depends on how you view these different businesses.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Now, okay, real quick, I have a perfect example for you guys. Because remember, you'll see that Chef Janet didn't make any money. She was at a 0. Just because she's at a 0 doesn't mean that she's going to be the most profitable for you guys. She could be negative 10,000 like next month. So my example is the B&B. When I took it over, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But I believed in the business. I believed that we had a great location, that the facility was a fantastic facility, and that it had a great reputation within the community. But I had to make changes. I had to fix some things. I had to revamp our marketing. I had to relook at our numbers, look at exactly the things that you guys are looking at right now. I had to look at and problem solve. And if I redid our marketing, redid our menu, because the previous owners, they didn't put bacon on the menu. They went to a pig farm and they did not believe in putting serving bacon. So they did not serve any bacon at a bed and breakfast. So that was our #1 complaint. So by looking at that menu, looking at a new marketing, all of that stuff, I was able to make us have a profit. I was able to make us be very successful. And that is that type of detail you want to do here. Am I right, Chef? You want to say it's not just looking at that net profit loss. Like you don't want to just base everything off of that, because if I did that, I wouldn't have been able to make that bed and breakfast successful. And we were hundreds, thousands of dollars in debt, like hundreds. I cannot specify enough where it was horrific, but I was able to change it. I was able to look at the numbers, make us create multiple solutions. That's why it's important to do more than one solution, because sometimes that solution may not work. So you want to have a backup. You want to be able to keep it going, make it work. And I was able to become successful. We were able to make a profit and we were able to do really well. So think of that when you're looking at that second question. Don't just say Janet's going to be more profitable because she's at 0 already. Am I right, Jeff?
Yes, please, please, guys. We do want to see some critical thinking here. And with this assignment, you get to be pretty creative. Yeah, it's numbers, but you get to think of weird scenarios that could cause those numbers. It's fun, for me anyway.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Chef.
One thing that Chef Rachel was just saying, net profit and loss. This is not a cost problem. on any of these 3 businesses. This is a summary of how the business is doing. Your cost problems will be one of these specific costs. That was it.
Yeah. And then I did want to point out, I did put this on your actual, on your slides. If I pull it up right now, I created for you guys to give you guys see my screen, right? This helpful hints for week 4. This is a little slide that gives you different helpful websites for you guys to go off of. One, it has when all your stuff is done. Chef Jonathan, I thought of you for this one, the balancing your budget thing. And then these are all different items for a financial analysis that you can look at. Obviously, you don't need it for your assignment, but I wanted you guys to have it. And their definitions and a link to go with it to go further into that information. And I also wanted to give you guys these 2 right here, because these will actually, if you go to the links, and I will do a video, I have a video for you guys to go over it, but you can actually download the different templates so you don't have to actually make them. You can just download them and use those different templates. And if you want financial projections, 12-month profit and loss, SCORE will actually help you, and you can find a mentor, and you can actually take different workshops, and they do a great job of actually helping you start up that business and look at those numbers. So I wanted you guys to have that here. So here are all the different meanings and different links that you can go into and really get a good understanding of. And this will be very helpful for when you guys are ready to do your own business. So I wanted to have you guys have that for you. And Chef Jonathan already put up his awesome slides in week 4 for you guys to look at. Now, I see Janine, right? There isn't a place for a concept summary, because this is the one week you do not need your concept summary, because you have 3 businesses that you are looking at. Think of yourself as the consultant. You're coming in, you're looking at what the problem is, and now it's your job to create those solutions. And oftentimes, if you are going to be a manager, you're going to be walking into this type of thing. Or if you're taking over a business, if you just bought a business from somebody, this is the stuff you're going to be looking at. This is what you have to walk into and look at. So think of it as a consultant. You are a consultant, and you are coming up with what the problems are and how you are going to create those solutions. Right, Chef?
Yes, but make sure you don't lose those concept summaries, because you will need them next week.
And the week after that. Gave you a break from your concept summary. Excited about that? You're like, yay, a break. Now, are there any questions before we go? Yes, Don.
It's really not a question. It's more something for Chef Jonathan. You know, we talked about training. Just think, you talked about if they went across the street and got more money. Well, if we trained them and they left, then they left trained. But if you didn't train them and they stayed, wow, what an effect, right?
Yes, training is always worth it. And you do, to your point earlier, you do want to budget for training being a little more expensive than established employees. You want to have a budget for that training as well.
And that's going to be part of your research and development too, right? You're always going to be trying out new recipes, trying out, you know, figuring that type of stuff out. That's going to be part of that training too. You can just put that under your research and development. So, are there any other questions? Look for my video about the discussion. We'll go over. Remember, those are due, and your knowledge check. When's your knowledge check due?
Saturday.
Thank you, Mary Lou and Paul. Saturday. Yes, Saturday. And
Elton John Saturday?
You what?
Elton John Saturday. Doesn't he sing Saturday? Right?
No, he does. I'm going to use that later.
He does.
Awesome. Well, and remember, your assignment is going to be due on Tuesday, but you guys aren't going to wait until Tuesday. Am I right? You're going to do this sooner rather than later. and you're going to give wonderful detail because you're a consultant.
You're right.
You can't say as a consultant, yeah, change your wine situation. Because then was it Chef Janet who had the wine problem, right? Yeah, she's going to be like, how do I change my wine situation? What are you talking about? What is that about? I could say, you're a catering company. Did you just buy a boatload of red wine during the summertime when everybody wants something white and crisp and light? Like that kind of stuff you can think about. Maybe they don't like your labels that you picked. Maybe you got to do new stuff. But you need to give them that type of detail in order for them to actually make a difference. So I hope you guys enjoyed this live session. Chef Jonathan, thank you very much. You did a fabulous job. Round of applause for Chef Jonathan. Woo! Yeah! And if you guys have any questions, please let us know. But I hope you all have a fabulous, fabulous week. Enjoy looking at all the fun numbers because they're just fun. And we'll see everybody on Thursday. Have a great, great day, guys.